Let's go. Yeah. Legends don't exist because I'm still alive. And yet you don't know I exist because I'm still alive. Seems unfair when everything we do is do or die. Dying to ourselves and then reborn into our newer lives.
Notice.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hip Hop High Societies, a conversation with your boy Big O SG Southside Gun. And today I am graciously welcomed by the one and only Miss Nyota Parker. How are you doing
Yo,
today?
I'm
No?
doing I'm doing super good, super good. Enjoying the time that I'm having right now, weather wise, and everything's good.
Awesome.
Oh,
I would like to say thank you so much for taking the time to actually sit down with me and really just go through just who you are as an artist. It's been a great deal of just one trying to put this together. I think is amazing, but also just the fact that you are just open and able and willing to let us into your world, even if just for a small amount of time. We thank you so much for that.
yeah, got you. I'm amped, very much amped to always just let you into my world and explore.
So let's go ahead and just get the introductions and stuff out the way and just get the ball rolling. So tell us who is Nyota Parker?
Yes. So yes, me, Nyota Parker. I'm 24. I'm a hip hop artist, hip hop neo soul, I would like to say. So I do a lot of rap, singing, songwriting, I skateboard. I love to skate, I like to be out in nature. I draw a lot of my inspiration, not just for my music, but also just for life and the way that I go about thinking. I draw it from nature. I draw it from how people act and react in social settings, and just I like to think about everyone's individuality and my own, and it's just very inspirational in that sense. That draws into my music. I'm Congolese and Irish, but I grew up in Cape Town, South Africa, and now I was in New York for the past 3 years or so, and then now I'm in Montreal. It's been like a year and a half. So I'm just here and there and creating and connecting. That is me.
Wow, so you're well versed. So I think just you being able, just you being from South Africa and having that influence, and you being in New York and now being in Montreal, so you're very well versed, and you can tell you're well versed in your music. And I really want to highlight, your recent work, Intrusive Thoughts. Me personally, my favorite album this year.
Oh
Still
wow.
still is. And I've played it front to back 8, 9 times within the last 2 months.
No way. Thank you.
So what I would like to know is what's the story or the inspiration behind that project?
Yeah, no, firstly, thank you so much. Now I know who to. Damn, now someone's car has to go off in the middle of the. Okay, I think we're good. I
It's
hope
all
you
good.
wasn't hurt. But yeah. No, I appreciate that. Now I know who was running up the streams whenever I was checking. I appreciate that. But intrusive thoughts, everything that stemmed from was literally all over the place. As the title mentions, literally intrusive thoughts from different eras of my life. So there were some songs that I wrote and recorded in 2022, and then there were some songs that I did just a few months ago before Intrusive Thoughts actually dropped. So it's just from so many different areas of my life, to the point where I'm ready to even move on to the next thing that I've been writing for. But yeah, it's just one of those projects where I knew I had to put this together and let it out. It was more of just like an exertion of energy just to go. I needed it to be out. because it was super, and it's super important to me. Just it was based on a lot of mental health issues, not just on my own mental health. Just being able to be that safe space for people to interact with music, and for people to be like, yeah, to draw something from the end of, even if it's just to feel like they're not alone. And yeah, that's the basis of it. It's just like a whole bunch of intrusive thoughts. Some of them, yeah, I'm sure a lot of us have very weird intrusive thoughts, whether it's like throwing your phone out of the car window just to see what happens, or random, things like that. So yeah, I figured this would be an important thing to let people know that you're not alone. And yeah,
I think the concept of when you started speaking about anxiety, that was when it really started to hit home for me. Because I mean, the whole album speaks to me in a way that a lot of other albums can't really speak to me. And so it wasn't so much a surface level. And so in terms of speaking towards the mental health, like you mentioned, what would you say was like the biggest obstacle mentally, really, of just trying to put everything together?
yeah, very true. Like the anxiety part, I feel like majority of people would be able to draw from and relate to as well. As someone like me, who's an overthinker, and someone who who has anxiety about, yeah, as well. So I feel like the main source, the most the difficult obstacle whilst creating this project was trying to make it as cohesive as I could, because everything was so all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Every song was, like I mentioned, from a different part of my life, and there were different climaxes here and there, and like every single song was just as important as the next one, or the one previous. But it was a bit difficult to figure out what goes where, and if this song belongs here. And then I realized, like, the whole idea is that it's intrusive thoughts, so it's meant to be kind of crazy, kind of all over the place sounding, and it just ended up working. So I think that was the biggest obstacle, just trying to figure out, like, how to make this sound like it's a cohesive project.
Yeah,
But
and I
worked out.
agree. I agree. I think it's very cohesive. Again, I'm not gonna stop my love for it. Usually when I have an album of the year, it kind of typically it sticks all the way through the rest of the year. So it's something that I'm probably gonna keep promoting and listening to probably for
Yeah.
the rest of the year, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
And I think you speaking to mental health and you speaking to the cohesiveness of the project, I think it is absolutely amazing. The production within that project is amazing. The way that you've taken different levels to visually explain yourself in a sense, because your words do more than just they more than just sit in your ears. Like you can visually see every situation that you spoke about within that project, and my hat's off to you for that, for sure.
Thank you.
um One thing I wanted to know, because I've learned, I'm learning from from Cape Town, South Africa, and you've been
Yeah.
around the world in a sense. I just wanted to get your thoughts on basically what in because we're in the age of hip hop where things are kind of all over the place, simplistic, and it's very like easy to consumer. There's not a lot of conscious music in the world. So in even whether it's South Africa or just any other regions you've been in, what do you think is the biggest difference of hip hop kind of like now to where it was when we were coming up and we were first listening to it?
Right. No. Do you mean specifically from the regions that I've been in?
Yeah.
Um, I would say, yeah, I can speak a lot for, like, South Africa. Right now. Like when I started making music in 2016, like officially recording then for like a purpose and with intention.
Okay.
And the hip hop scene in South Africa, it is big as well. But and we have some amazing artists, some still here, some passed on early in life, um, and people who really held it down for the culture in South Africa, and all the integrations of the different slang, the dialects, you know, all of that kind of stuff. It is still very important. And yeah, in South Africa, I would say like it was maybe during like, you know, the 2010s, 2013s, leading up to maybe like 2017, 2018 and stuff. It was like it has, not that it doesn't still have its solid run, but it had its thing, you know, the way even I know in the States, there was like, you know, different eras of hip hop where things were like, you know, things stuck. But and because whilst now there's like other genres that are popping up in South Africa that are like kind of overtaking. But the state of hip hop right now in South Africa, since I was back in like end of 2022, there's a lot of amazing artists who are more underground, because I feel, and I've always felt that a lot of hip hop artists specifically in South Africa were like, or not even just hip hop artists, just people being like reused, like recycled, just celebrities being like just recycled over and over and over again. Same people just trying to recreate what has been heard overseas.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? There was a lot of that was like in the limelight, apart from like the few that were like that were and are still very true to the culture, and the people who are also more underground and not well known. But they're, you know, there's always a certain you know, big celebrities who, you know, it's a lot of like they draw more than inspiration from other people, and it just sounds very similar, but at the same time there's too much originality. It's just they're not in the spotlight.
Right.
So yeah, it's that kind of thing. And then going to New York, where like the first place when I went to New York was 1520 Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx. I went there because I had to. That was the first time when I went to the States, when I went to New York. I had to make sure I went there. So I can't really speak too much for hip hop in New York, because I only was there for like 3 years and a bit. But yeah, it's still a very different state, and a lot I know in New York is very, in terms of just music in general, oversaturated with a lot of just everyone's trying to make it there.
Yeah.
And you know, everyone's trying to make it. And then now being in Montreal, another just a fantastic bunch of like crazy talented musicians, rappers, singers, and I feel like there's a lot of space to create here, a lot of people to explore, a lot of space to explore, and yeah, a lot of space to explore your craft. But yeah, in Montreal, I know they also I've only been here for a year and a half, so I also can't speak fully for that. But every place has a different feeling when it comes to creating your music, when it comes to hip hop, when it comes to just like, originality. But yeah, that's what I can say.
I appreciate that. I think you really hit the nail on the head in terms of speaking to oversaturation. I think because a lot of artists nowadays just kind of labels and certain artists, they kind of just push what already has been done and what's worked, and no one's really stepping out of the box. So for an artist like yourself, being into neo soul, which we don't have a lot of that within our community, and that's something that a lot of people should really get into. But it helps you stand out. So I would say, in addition to that aspect of, your artistry, what else do you think helps you stand out in today's genre of hip hop, and just music in general, not even just hip hop, because again, you do neo soul, so you have levels to you. So what do you think helps you stand out?
Yeah. I feel like apart from the neo soul and just, I would say maybe this subject matter. I mean, the subject matter is what makes most artists stand out as well. So I would say like, yeah, subject matter, what I talk about. I feel like I speak about things from an internal perspective, just internalizing things that I see around the world, whether it's in just individuality, not conforming, or just like plain observations that I like to turn into analogies and things like that. But I feel like, yeah, my subject matter in that sense, perhaps even style wise, because I know fashion and music, fashion and hip hop go together.
Yes, I do.
You know, so I would say style wise, a lot of my inspiration is like I like to put in a lot of like African prints, as well as, you know, how do I even explain it? I love a lot of colors and patterns and African print, big clothes as well, and just like maximalist a lot of the time. I mean, not right now. I'm not wearing something fancy, but you know, things like also from just back home that represent back home. I have like, you know, bags and fanny packs that my grandma back home makes with our traditional patterns and stuff. So I like to represent. I feel like just being able to represent where I come from is definitely what makes me different as an artist, or stands out as an artist. And coming from so many different cultures, being able to portray that through my music is also, yeah, something important to me, and that perhaps stands out.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. And to me, you definitely stand out. You're not one of those artists that, somebody can just easily just find on like their homepage. Like, you're kind of what I would say one of those diamonds in the rough, where you
That
you search for, you may just be going down a rabbit hole of particular artists and just seeing who's similar to who, and someone could come across your music and they may listen to one or two of your songs, and they immediately just like, you know what? Let me start from the beginning. Let me go.
yeah.
Let me go to her earlier work. Let me see what she's posting on her YouTube or something of that nature. So, and
Yeah.
myself, that is what I did. I went back, listened to a lot of your music from before. I discovered your Intrusive Thoughts album,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed your song Spectrum.
Oh
Um,
damn.
that was the one that kind of was like, okay, yeah, I'm a fan. I
I,
was like, let me go back and listen. So, after going back, listening to your older work and really, you know, divulging myself into your artistry, what do you think really changed for you growth wise from, when you first started out to kind of where you are now?
yeah, I appreciate you going all the way back. Even though I feel like Spectrum wasn't that long ago.
Not, it
But
wasn't. It
yeah,
feels like it, but I mean, there's so much other, like you
yeah.
have a catalog back there. It's back there. We gotta pull it out.
I've even removed some things off of Spotify that I dropped when I was like 18 and 17. I was like, there's like, as much as it represents growth, there's a lot I've changed, that has changed in terms of the way I deliver my stuff and the way that I write and the way that I just want my overall sound and just brand to be, you know?
Mhm.
So there's a lot of stuff that I've even removed that I'm still also contemplating removing some more. But yeah, that's a side thought. But yeah, like I would say the thing that has changed the most for me is just it's like just been a lot, just like the details in terms of the way that I just write my music, the way I deliver my my verses, my hooks, and the way that I go into studio recording, and knowing what I now knowing what I want to do in studio, and just like that's since the beginning. Like I know exactly what I want to do in studio, and I know how I want to layer this, and also having a more open mind to people coming in and saying maybe you should layer this vocal like this or whatever. Because I was super adamant at the beginning. I still am, but I was super adamant about like always writing everything, and I still do write everything that I let out, that I drop. But there's some recent producers that I've worked with and engineers that I've worked with who have told me like, yo, when you sing this hook, or when you rap this line, say it like this, or maybe like let's do like 7 different layers of the same take,
Mhm.
and it sounds super sick. So having an open mind to people just being like, yo, maybe if you say it, maybe if you rap it like this, maybe you sing it like this, it could bring out something, you know. So not being so stuck in my head about just making sure that everything is the way that I envisioned in my mind before I go into studio, because they're the ones listening also from an outside perspective, you know, as the engineers. So yeah, but I still write everything. I just have a really good team, or good, not team, but good friends who are engineers that give fantastic input. And yeah, and I feel like that's the main thing. It's just the production of my music that I've grown in, as well as solidifying my, like, just me as the artist and solidifying my sound. I feel like that has happened more so this year, me figuring out, like, not even figuring out, just piecing the things together, like, this is my sound, this is how I present myself everywhere. And just, yeah, I think that's just how that's definitely how I've grown.
Definitely understood. Okay. And then, speaking to your growth and everything, we all
Yeah.
know that, in music, there's always a goal for somebody. Because there has to be a reason as to why you're making music. You're not just doing it just to do it. And some people kind of do get into that headspace where they just want to do it because it's more of just a creative outlet, because they're having to disassociate with society. So I guess what I would like to know, just basically, just, what are your goals as you're making music? Like, what are you striving for?
Yeah, good question. Like, for me, it was when I started off, and what it is still is about. But I've been an only child. I've always been that one that didn't really have that many friends growing up. Um, just in school in general, and always just been that person that's been like that on the side. Also, because I was just super reserved, but also didn't really find myself in different situations and friend groups. I was always the person that had, like, those couple really good people in my life. And sometimes it was good, but a lot of times it felt bad and isolating. So I draw from that. That's the reason I make music, is to make sure people feel like they're not alone. So yeah, as much as it's an outlet for me, it's something for people to, yeah, it's definitely a creative outlet for me, just to speak from my own perspective. And then also talk from a lot of the time I talk from, like, it's not third person, it's like, yeah, just like an observing kind of standpoint. And then so it's not entirely specific to me, even though it is, but just so, yeah. And yeah, it's really just so people do not feel alone. Safe, literally just like a safe space.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of my music. I even have the song on Intrusive Thoughts, Safe Space. Yeah, which is a very, very special track to me. Yeah, that's the reason.
I like that. I think that, you're, as someone who grew up as an only child, I can completely understand what that's like. So I
Yeah.
definitely do feel like your music really, it really does speak to people who've been through similar experiences. And with you touching on it being a safe space, I think that is absolutely wonderful. Because it does feel safe, especially with the amount of passion and effort that you can hear behind every aspect of your music, whether it be from lyrics or instrumentation, or even just your song structure as a whole. I think, everything is so well thought out and planned that
Yeah.
it really does give the listeners a sense of comfort.
Right.
But lastly, I'm not going to hold you too long, but I do just have one final question.
Yeah.
And I've asked this before, and I try to ask every artist this.
Yeah.
When a when just a regular, average, everyday person discovers your name on Apple Music or Spotify, what do you want them to take away after they've listened to your music?
That's also a super good question. When someone discovers my music, my name, and they listen to that one track, or maybe they go through my entire discography, I feel like, yeah, the thing that I want people to take away from, although it sounds cliche, but it's cliche for a reason. It sounds cliche, but that's why it's cliche. But I need people to actually, is it specifically about me, what they draw from it, or is it about just in general, like a lesson that they draw?
Really just a lesson that they would draw.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. So I was going in that direction. But yeah, I lost my train of thought for a second. Oh yes. I lost my train of thought for a second. But I would just tell people to draw that it's all right to not conform, to just be an individual.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, yeah, it's important to feel like, it's okay to just be an individual, and also important to not compromise who you are for the sake of whatever. So I think actually one of the most important things is there's a difference between adjusting for a situation and then compromising who you are because the world said you must, or your industry says you must. So yeah, I would say don't be an individual, but also be that's like cog that also works for community, like an individual, but still integrated within the community. And then kind of like a where a clock has individual parts, but it still works for a bigger cause, which is the clock. So kind of like that. And yeah, like I said, to not compromise. That's what I would rate people draw.
Well, I think that is something that is very much a given your music and everything. So thank you so much for taking time to have a conversation with me. I really appreciate you as an artist. I appreciate your music. So people, Intrusive Thoughts, wherever you get your music from, please listen, go support. She really deserves it. I believe this album is amazing. I believe you guys will enjoy it as well. Ms. Parker, thank you so much for taking the time to have a conversation with Southside Gun and from Hip Hop High Society. Thank you.
Shout out to you guys at Hip Hop High Society, putting delving into the world and the minds of artists, and yeah, it's very meaningful. So I appreciate you guys, and hope everyone enjoys Intrusive Thoughts, but also there's way better music on the way. I feel like Intrusive Thoughts is there, but there's way better stuff on the way.
You guys heard it here first. We got more on the way. So stay tuned, okay? We will be promoting. Stay tuned, people. Yeah. Thank you again so much.
Let my passion go into overdrive. All these notes that I be stashing is my own advice. Had to ignite my own reaction just to stay alive. That's what keeps it everlasting, now we multiply. Cause in the midst of it all, in the mist and the fall, it still comes back to me. Comes back to me. In the midst of it all, in the mist and the fall, it still comes back to me. Comes back to me. In the midst of it all, in the mist and the fall, it still comes back to me. Comes back to me. In the midst of it all, in the mist and the fall, it still comes back to me. Comes back to me.
Notice